to everyone. In this video, I present a learning materials in vocabulary, but first we identify what is vocabulary. So a vocabulary also known as a word stack or word stack is a set of familiar. A vocabulary usually developed with age, services as a usual and fundamental tools for communication. Fundamental tools and communication. So, the vocabulary we use it. So, even you or me have a notes that we're writing a words that we never encountered before, and we find it a meaning of it, and we use it to our communication, daily communication, or in school. Yes. And what are the importance of vocabulary? Comprehension is a very important. So there are comprehension. Comprehension is a very important of vocabulary. It is very important to us because comprehension improves when you know what the words mean. And since comprehension is the ultimate goal of reading, you cannot overestimate the importance of vocabulary development. It improves all areas of communication which are listening, vocabulary with through our ears, speaking vocabulary through our mouth, speak, reading vocabulary through our eyes, writing vocabulary through our hands that we write takes note. Those are words that we never encountered before, and you find it a meaning. That's your writing. And now let's proceed to the four types of vocabulary. Vocabulary refers to the word we understand to communicate effective. Educators often consider four types. So there are four types in vocabulary. First is listening vocabulary. Listening to the words we need to know to understand what we hear. So, to understand what we hear. And now, I have a listening materials, learning materials, which are book. This book I use to represent a listening vocabulary. I read a short story about vocabulary, and I want you to take note what I'm reading, what are the words that you have never encountered. This is the book. This is Fernando to the Rescue is my story. This is the short story that I read, and there are many words that you will add it to your vocabulary that you will never encounter before. And now let's start. Fernando to the rescue. The window of the van felt warm. Oh my god. Looking out at the giant cactus spread across this desert. Nando felt both pride and shame. Oh my god. They were returning from the first vacation Fernando has ever taken. Next, Hopkins and had invited Nando to go to the Hopkins family to the Grand Canyon. Weeks before, Mr. Hopkins has called to ask Mr. Rosas permission to take Nando on the trip. Oh my! Nando had been embarrassed when his mom talked on the phone because her English was very good. Now he felt ashamed. He understood what Maros had instead that he learned to speak Spanish. Well, he admired his mother because she could speak two languages. And he was also proud to recall that his own Spanish and civil life during their 4-day trip of the Grand Canyon. On the second day of trip, Mr. Hopkins had a round to take Nick, Buzz, and Nando into the canyon on donkey. A park wander was only grew several words and warming before they left the sound right and began their downward journey. Although the path was very warm, they would have no problems finding their way into the canyon and back out again. Nando called hastily, remember her own father and practical worship. Next day, I was worried as the words Nando to be able to go on the strip. He remembered his mother was of warning because he is careful, polite. Work has the worthy of trip and don't assume your money. He told the Dunkerers and follow Mr. Humpkin today the path. Nando, bad was asking. Nando, bad words were lost on Nando. But was not little brother but a little sham around new people. He will be able to third grade when grade become. He remembered Nando of his younger sister Maria. She was shamed with the new people too. The rest of family was home to Jasper just last spring. Nando has to become a friend but to worry about Maria. Mostly she stay home and did school work. Nando do not talk. You could help me get this pack This boat of the strange birds of packet. Sure, but then when better get going, your dad and Nick are ahead of us when the park widen and there's some other waiting behind us. The two following are fat-doing into the worldless canyon. Minutes later, they have entered what seemed like another world still novels. In sign and other sound of cold hair insects swarming in the scrub. It should like a scrum of workers' bees, Nando's commented. It's a good thing women brought us a repellent. Patron both struggle happily about the path. Leading in the donkey by reins, he will head it on a shelter where the both spend the night where they grow. Nando pent out and wearing postered along the path, danger aware or falling rock. 3 hours later, they reaches a sea area, and a park ranger told him, we're a little more than half a shelter where they would spend the night. It was a beautiful, warm summer afternoon, but they began to feel the chill and sun into the sky over the Grand Canyon. So rather was in Hafo and go to the about was surprised to Nanus began to feel helpless, began to he throat his voice. Or was it disengaged? As the noises grew loud, they grew clear. A helicopter was hovering about them and Nando was helping. Yes. And now it's the end of the story. And I hope you learn on communication, comprehension comprehension what is the in other words there are summary for its Nick's family takes a trip to Grand Canyon and Nick's prince Fernando is invited to go with them. During trip down into the world's largest canyon, Fernando became a hero and he learned an important lesson. And there are vocabulary words. First, succulent, crater, protagonist, apprehensive, presidential truth, south rim, cavernous, antagonist, Craig, heckle, keep a little head, work of warming, of his look, communication, just a fair. Okay, and that's it for the listening vocabulary. The learning materials is the book. This book. I read a story about this and now you will understand about what is learning vocabulary. Next is the speaking vocabulary. Speaking which is oral. Oral vocabulary refers to the words we use in speaking or recognize our listening. So I have a learning materials which is index. Instead of index, I cut what you call this, bond paper and color paper. I put it into manong bitaw nagbanha pa jud siya. Misapit nung ta kumahuman. Ko. Hapit nung ta mahuman. And now we proceed to the speaking vocabulary. Speaking, which is oral, refers to the words we use in speaking and recognizing and listening. I have a learning materials. Instead of index, I use a color paper. I cut it and write it into a vocabulary word. These are. I write it. It is all 15 vocabulary, and you will. I speak it to you to understand more what are the words, and I give it a meaning and an example of it in words. First is discrepancy. So this is a discrepancy. So a different special between things that should be the same or a mistake. It is a discrepancy. Like for example, discrepancy is the first financial statements into the investment. Next is ambience. Ambience is feeling or a mood association with a particular place, person, or anything. Like for example of ambience is the ambience of the tropical island. Next is the expedite. Expedite is to cause to happen faster or to accelerate the fresh of the speed. So this is an expedite. Next is the husbandry. Is agriculture. Like for example, the cleared of the land used for agriculture or husbandry. Effect. No longer fertile or tired or worn out. Next is ephemeral. Lasting one day only, or an ephemeral fever lasting a very short time, or ephemeral pleasant. Next is the legend. It is a characters by stating and raising an energetic effort or a diligent workers. Like for example of it is a student who has been increasing the legend in pursuit in a degree of mathematics. Next is a venerable. Venerable is the respectable because of age or made sacred, especially by religions or historical association. Next is wary. Wary. Wary is not having or showing complete trust in someone or something. Like for example, the store owner keep a wary eye on him. Altercation. Noisy, hatred, angry, dispute, or noisy controversy. That is the altercation. Next is the fiasco. A complete failure. Like for example, the critical cold form of fiasco. Next is the precocious. Precocious. So the brilliant or expect at an early age. Like for example, Jonah may has a precocious. Next is the inevitable. Inevitable, incapable, or being avoid or invalid. Invalid. Like for example, that is an inevitable outcome. Next is the rancor. Rancor, an angry feeling or hatred or dislike from someone who has hated you unfairly. Like example of this, so she answered her questions calm and without rancor. That's very good. Next is a cryptic. Cryptic is difficult to understand or having or seem to have a hidden meaning. Like for example of this is puzzled by the psychic. It is a very possible. Oh, it is and that's all. That's these materials, the cards that I need for the speaking vocabulary cards. And now let's proceed to the reading vocabulary. Represent the word we recognize and friend. But friend, I don't have any kind of friend, but I have a guest to you, which is reading vocabulary. I have make a bond paper. I write it, and I want you to guess what are the words that I write then. That because in the words there are missing. This is the example of that. This is my learning materials about the reading vocabulary. This is first is R N C R. Is this hatred? Please guess. What is that? Right. Rancor is the hatred. Rancor. Number 2. FL blank RI blank. Flush. What is that? Okay, fluoride. Fluoride is correct. Fluoride is a flash. Number 3, PRO blank A blank. What is that? It is a ordinary. Yes, that's correct. Fropsych. Next is a AMBIEN. That is a surrounding. Yes, right. That is ambience. Number 5 is DISCR blank P blank RC blank. It is a mistake. Yes, correct. Discrepance. Discrepance. Next, number 6 is E dash F blank T blank. It is a tire. Yes, correct. Effect. Effect. Number 7 is decimal. It is a DISM dash dash. It is a decimal. Blake. Anat blank M blank. What is that? It is a course. Anathema. It is anathema. Anathema. Number 9 is dispel. Remove doubt. Dispel the D is the missing words. Jawa dia. Diha. Isod ka ini magkuan-kuan ka diha. Kapoy kay si kuan ni Gino. Kapoy kay sa matanan. Ug inanaa. And number 10 is H blank D blank N blank ST. It is a pleasure seeker. Yes, correct. Hedonist. 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 It is a pleasure seeker. And now let's proceed to the writing vocabulary, consisting words we use in writing. I prepared the learning materials which are vocabulary words, 10 vocabulary words meaning, example. Example of the 10 vocabulary words. First vocabulary is abstain. Abstain. It is the preparing for doing something. Write it. Something. And I have an example of it. 10 members vote. 10 members voted for the proposal. 6 members voted against it, and 2 is abstain. Next is restrain. Restrain. It restrained. Controlled. It is a controlled. Next example is said is she was admired for her restrained behavior. She was admired for his restrained behavior. Next is superfluous. Sorry for my pen, it is not ink anymore. Superfluous, it is beyond what is necessary or excellent. Excessive. Example it is cleared off all the superfluous stuff on his desk to make room for the new computer. Number 4 is impair. My God. Impair. It is a impair is a worsen or damage. Damage is the impair. Next is dispel. Dispel. Dispel is remove doubt or fear. Dismal is blink. Number 7 is stumble. Stumble is to walk in a wayward. Dispel, write it all na. Stumble is to walk upright. Taller is to weak. Interpreted is the families. Assiduous is diligent. And I have an example which is number 4, impair. Smoking was impair health. Smoking was impair health. Number 5 is dispel. Dismal. The show was a dismal failure. Number 6 is decimal. Dispel. This report shows dispel any doubt you have about the plan. And number 8 is taller. Taller is the child taller across the mean. Number 9 is the enterprise. The enterprise explorer who probably part of the reinforcements never attempted. Number 9. Number 10 is the assiduous. Assiduous is the diligent is the project requires some assiduous plan. And these are my learning materials about writing vocabulary. And I hope you'll learn more about my video watching always. Thank you, Mom. My name is Marifel B. Saldasal, BSED 2 English Major Students, Batch 4.